But like when you fully get that surrender of like everything to God, like you realize, okay, nothing is technically in my control. I will do my best and I will do my part. I will work hard. I will do whatever it takes for me to be and feel prepared. But then I'm going to trust God with the outcome.
Hello, hello. You're listening to Still an Athlete podcast, where we talk about life after the game, mental shifts, identity rebuilds, and purpose reimagined. I'm Dominique Wilson, the host. And on today's episode, we have Marissa, someone I love, very dear to my heart. Former pro basketball player, just retired. We'll get into that. Former NC State alumni, and she hosted me as well. And played at NC State. And just someone I went, head to head with on the court professionally. But what stands out about Marissa isn't her resume, it's her faith, her leadership, and how she used both to serve others. So today's conversation, we're going to focus on how she created a spiritual community for athletes and then the courage it takes to stand for something bigger than herself. So, Marissa, hi, love.
Hi. Well, thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. You deserve it, girl. You deserve like a 20-minute introduction, but I definitely am grateful you took time out of your schedule to talk to me and talk to other athletes that listen to this podcast. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm super
Just
excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks. So, just wanted to get in and just ask, like, I did say you're previously retired, so if you want to give us a recap of your season, how it went, and just like how you feeling now that you hung your jersey up, girl.
Yeah, so I just finished my 12th professional season overseas, and we ended up winning on a championship. So pretty cool in the Polish league. This season was like beyond a blessing for me. I don't know who all listens to this podcast, but I guarantee they've all been on teams or in situations where like the people they work with aren't great, or just a lot of personality clashes, a lot of, unfair maybe treatment from clubs, whatever. But like this season, I mean, it was like a storybook ending. Um, I was just blessed with amazing girls, a great staff, people coming in and just making this last year amazing.
Mhm.
I had known the whole season that it was my last one, but nobody else knew. Um,
Mm.
Mostly it was for like, you know how shady people can get in this business. So like, oh, she doesn't
Yeah.
care anymore. She's retiring. Let's just, write her off. So I didn't tell anyone until like probably one game before regular season ended, and it was like a shock to everyone. But I'm feeling great now. I feel just ready to start the next chapter of my life.
I love that for you. What did your agent know at least, or you literally did tell no one?
No, my agent knew. Like it was actually kind of an interesting situation. We were kind of prepared not to go back. Like I had signed for last season, but I was like, I'm just kind of done. Like
Yeah.
there's not much more that I want to like accomplish as a player. I kind of, played at the highest levels, did everything that was pretty much possible for me and my abilities, let's say. And so I was like, yeah, if something comes up back home, I'll just tell them like, hey, career change. But I'm really glad it didn't work out that way. I'm glad I came back for the last season and was just able to be around the game like one more time and kind of give people one last chance. And then I announced it before playoffs, so people got a chance to really know about it. But I would say like kind of like how you said, like, yeah, I have a resume, I have like a lot of cool things that I've done in life, but when this retirement thing came out, I was blown away by like the honor, the encouragement, and the support of people like around me. Like I had no idea I was making that impact on people. Just because I was living the way that God has called me to live. I wasn't doing it to, you know, gain friends or gain popularity or whatever. I was just doing it because out of obedience. And
Mhm.
when I was hearing all of these like people saying like, "Wow, you did this for me or that for me," I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize, that was the impact and like the amount of people who just showed up and like came out and supported and encouraged and like honored me when I felt like, okay, so many people have retired before. Like I'm not the first person to stop playing basketball, but I've never seen like especially in my 9 years in Poland, I've never seen the league or the people like come behind a player so much. So I thought that was really, really neat and really special.
Yeah, I love that for you. That is awesome. And the fact that you get to retire off a championship
I know.
is ending. Like, I love it for you. And you started Wisdom while you were playing overseas, like a spiritual group for women in sports. What moved you to create that space, and like, what did it teach you about leadership and obedience? Because you are a guard too, so you know a little bit more about leadership on that end. But during Wisdom, how did it teach you about leadership on a spiritual side?
Yeah. So when I started Wisdom, I was kind of in a space where I was like, okay, I felt a little bit purposeless. I was playing basketball, watching Netflix, getting paid. I just
Mhm.
felt like there has to be something more to life. Like this can't be the only thing. And I was directed by one of my mentors to read Purpose Driven Life. And when I read that, like if you would read that book and look at wisdom, it's very connected. Like that book really, lines out five purposes. And then wisdom is pretty much centered around that. So at wisdom, we have three main goals, which is the first one is to grow a deeper personal relationship with God. The second one is to have a fellowship and community group to do life with people who kind of get where you are and understand what you're going through. And then the third one is to bless others with what we've been blessed with and to like, share what we're learning and apply it to life. And you know, there's a scripture in the Bible and it says that woe to the leaders who lead people to sin.
Mm.
And that one verse really convicted me in a positive way because I realized the responsibility that I now held in my hands by being the leader of this group, by being someone who people look at as a spiritual mentor. And while on the one hand, I thought I was just going to be spreading the word of God to others, God
Mhm.
actually used me being the leader of wisdom to transform and to shape me and to build my character because now there's certain things that like if I was just me and I wasn't responsible for teaching and leading others, I could, maybe get away with X, Y, and Z. Or, I wouldn't have to necessarily pay attention to the way that I talk, the way that I treat the refs, the way that I treat someone just walking down the street. But now, like, my name and my face are with this ministry, and I'm in a way representing Jesus to people. So, with beginning wisdom and starting wisdom, I was getting convicted a lot like, hey, you got to change the way that you live. You got to change the way you think and the way you speak because now I might be the only Bible someone ever reads in their life. And if I'm not a good representation of Jesus and what he wants his followers to look like, I could potentially turn someone away from wanting to follow God. And so I would say, I mean, God uses everything, right? But I think he used wisdom not only to help other people, but definitely like transform and shape me as well.
Yeah, I love that. And when I was in Poland and I was with Wisdom, you did help me out a lot because you're right. Playing basketball overseas and you don't have anything outside of basketball, you go practice or you play a
Yeah.
game, you get up, lift weights, and then you come back and it is straight Netflix, reading a book, or you're going to sleep, or like if you're in another country that might have a nightlife, like Israel, for example, you go
Yeah.
do the nightlife. So um, I was in a space that was really dark, and I was transitioning. After being a college basketball player and leaving that life behind, and you just really helped me settle in, but You just cleared out all the negativity that was in my life, in my space, in my energy, in my mind, and I was able to focus on basketball as a basketball player in the right way, meaning my head was clear. Um, it wasn't things outside of basketball that was influencing my game. Uh, I can give you your praises for like 20 minutes. So I just want to say
Oh,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah. And the community, I love seeing it grow. I love hearing about it. And reading your message off of what you sent the newsletter,
Yeah.
like your environment message. Yeah. And you said like your goal wasn't to win people over, but to live obediently, like you just said just now. So how did that mindset help you stay grounded through like the ups and downs of your career?
Yeah, I would say faith is a funny thing in that way. There's like a fine line, and most people that don't believe think it's very countercultural to live an obedient, faith-filled life, right? So like to trust God, it looks from the outside like you're being lazy or that you don't care. But like
Mm-hmm.
when you fully get that surrender of like everything to God, like you realize, okay, nothing is technically in my control. I will do my best and I will do my part. I will work hard. I will do whatever it takes for me to be and feel prepared. But then I'm going to trust God with the outcome. And when I hit that level of trust, it was not right away. And this has been a journey, and that's the cool thing about faith is God meets you exactly where you are, but he's never
Mm-hmm.
going to leave you there, right? And so you don't have to be perfect for Jesus to hang out with Jesus, right? Like he's going to take you exactly how you are, and then it's like a partnership, right? You're just walking together, and like step by step you go from what the Bible says like glory to glory. So you just keep taking steps. um if you would be like sitting here with 2025 Marissa and 2019 or 2009 whatever, like there's huge growth steps. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm way further ahead in the faith journey than I used to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember like even in my first years pro, I was so uptight trying to control everything. Like trying to control my stats, trying to control where I was going to go next, trying to control all this, and I was a stress ball. Like I was so stressed all the time. I was like, if I don't score this many points, I'm not going to get a job next season. But in that mentality, and it hit me pretty hard in college. It was my senior year, beginning of it, and I was like, I want to play pro. And I was just doing too much. Like I was like I was playing outside of my game that made me look good, and coach was like, what are you doing, like what's going on? And I was like, I need to play pro. And she's like, well, if you continue to play like this, no one's going to take you because you're not Marissa. You're trying to be someone you're not, trying to get all these extra points, like you're shooting bad shots, all this stuff. And she's like, relax, be where your feet are, enjoy this moment, and in this moment you're going to play like you play, and then you're going to get where you want to go. And she didn't really use faith words at that time, but basically essentially what she's saying is like do your best and then trust God with the rest. And I wish I could say at that moment I was like, yeah, cool, going to live that out, but it took me time. It took me a process, right? And when I got to the point of, and this is where it gets countercultural, like I didn't care about the outcome. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the only thing that you can actually control is your character, your attitude, and how much you hustle. And like
Right.
those things, because I mean, come on, you can feel the greatest. You could have shot like a ton of shots before practice, and you just can't hit a shot in the game. Like that's happened to all of us. That doesn't mean you're a
Right.
bad player. It doesn't mean you didn't prepare. Like there's so many things that are outside of your control, right? Even your playing time is sometimes out of your control. The coach determines all of that. And so once I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to stress about the things that I can't control, but I'm going to
Right.
really focus on my character, on my attitude, and on my hustle, because those things I can. And
Yeah.
so when that shift kind of started to happen, I wasn't necessarily focused on my stats. I was like, those are going to be what they are. I'm going to
Mhm.
not even look at stat sheets. Like, I'm the worst at that. If you would ever ask me, how many points did you have after a game? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I had to I'd have to like count them. But that wasn't something like I had to force myself to stop looking at that stuff, stop looking at this. And, my focus then turned on to, okay, how can I be the best teammate?
Yeah.
How can I do the best job that's going to make my team better and make my teammates look good? And again, you take the focus off of yourself because that's what Jesus calls us to do, right? Like an others focused mindset. And it's not I'm a doormat now. It's not I'm going to let people play over me because that's better for them. No, like I'm still the same competitive dog. I'm still getting in your shorts in defense. Like I'm not going to let anybody win, but my mindset changed, like I'm going to play defense on you the best that I can, not to make
Mhm.
you look bad, but to make you better, right? So
Right.
it's those things, but like my mindset shifted, and then things just were working out in my favor, like through obedience. And I'm not saying that's not how it always works. Sometimes you're obedient and sometimes it doesn't work, but God has just given me so much favor. And I think that the faith aspect of that, of letting go of things I can't control and trusting him, has just been it's been an amazing journey.
I love that. And I'm just gonna stop recording 1 second because hold on. All right. So for anyone that's gonna watch the video version, I had to change sceneries because my laptop was dying. So sorry, but we're back. I love that. And you had mentioned like what your coach at NC State said to you, and you said she didn't use faith words, but it's so true because it's just like whether you're a Christian or you believe in a universe, whatever, if you just go out and control what you can and just let go and let God or the universe just take control, you are going to be sane in the mind, honestly, because I was, of course, like you, I try to control everything and I went crazy because it's like it's impossible for you
Yeah.
to control everything. All you can do is control your effort out there and control how you work out. That's it. And you trying to get better. That's really it. And then in the game, you just let it go. You are gonna have games where you miss shots, but you just have to keep shooting. So I love that you mentioned that. I love that your coach said that to you. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
will say another crazy thing that seems so backwards, and a lot of professional athletes don't necessarily understand this, but also the kind of person you are, right? Like your character, how you treat other people.
Mm,
It may seem very minor. It may not seem like it's connected to basketball at all, but if you're a good person, like if you put other people first, if you care about other people, if you make conversations with your native teammates, they're just
mm,
as scared to speak English as you are to speak the other language. But, you know, coming and finding common ground with your teammates, with your coaches, like that may seem like it's not related to basketball at all, but
mhm,
basketball is a people relationship business. Like that's what it is. It's not only about inside the lines, dribbling, shooting, rebounding, passing. Like there's so much more to basketball than that.
mhm,
And I feel like when you have that goal in mind of like, okay, what kind of a person am I being today for other people? It can be draining. And if you look at it, like we said, with the mindset of like, okay, well, I want people to treat me the way I'm treating them. And if they don't, I'm going to go back to, staying in my box and whatever. Like, but that doesn't teach anyone anything. Right. So, like, the life that I've kind of developed is I'm okay with some rejection. I'm okay with getting made fun of a little bit, but like if you look at, they were doing all these things at the end of my career, like list one word that explains Marissa, or I don't know, like they were just doing so many things or whatever. And like most of the time it was like energetic, colorful, bubbly, like just all these words, and I'm like, I'm so happy those are the words that come to mind, and like they didn't even have to think about it,
Right.
and so like I think those things are the things you can control. And then when you're a good person and you have a bad day, because we're all going to have bad days, people are more likely to help out, right? They're more likely to be like, okay, this is just a bad day. This isn't a bad, person or whatever. So I think that was something that was super huge for me too.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. But now that you are retired and you're heading into grad school and coaching at Nebraska, what's been the hardest or most surprising part of this transition that you're pivoting to?
I can't fully answer that yet because I haven't like gotten into it yet. So I'm super excited. I actually start Monday. Um, I think I'm just excited to change roles, like I don't know what it's exactly going to be like, but now, I'm going to be on the other side of the basketball, right? I'm going to be on the other side of the game, but at the same time, I think there's so many skills that are going to translate and transition. Um, I think one of my superpowers, I call them, is being a bridge between the coaches and the players. That was like a huge role that I would fulfill in a lot of my teams is I'd hear the coach say something and then I'd see my teammates' faces and I'm like, they don't understand, And like it's not that he said it bad or she said it bad. It's just that it's not it's the lines are not meeting where they want to be met. And
Mhm.
to avoid frustrations, to avoid all that stuff, I was able to say it in different ways or like make it, so both parties could understand the situation at hand. So I think that's going to be something that I'm excited to bring here is like being able to be a bridge between that, but also with the climate of what college basketball is like now. It's so similar to professional basketball.
Mhm.
It's very similar to what I've been living for the past 12 years. So um, I'm excited for that. And I'm also super excited to, lean on the girls for help because I haven't been in school for 12 years. And school has changed a lot. Like a lot more things are online, a lot, and I am the least tech savvy person ever. And so I'm excited to kind of just have it be a two-way street like, hey, help me with this portal, help me figure this out, help me figure that out. And so I think it's going to be a really cool situation.
Yeah, I love that for you. And yeah, the NIL deals. Do coaches, GAs, do y'all get a part of that as well? Piece of that
I don't,
money?
not that I am aware of, no. And that's what also makes it, a little bit pro. Like you've
Hmm.
got players making more than some coaches, and it's fine. I just one of my biggest passions, even before NIL came out, was talking to girls, talking to these student athletes about like, okay, a very small percentage of people, even though you want to, even though you think you will, go pro.
Yeah.
And of those that go pro, I mean, you're probably not going to make like I couldn't stop working. I played for 12 years and I can't stop working. Like we don't make this like ginormous salary or whatever.
Mhm.
But to use the game, and I've always said this, like use basketball as much as it's using you. So
Mhm.
basketball is not the destination, right? It's the vehicle to get you places.
Yeah.
And when you use that mindset of like, okay, basketball is the car that's going to take me to college. It's going to get me a degree. It's going to earn me some money. But like I'm driving the car, it's not driving me. And
Right.
so I think like that mindset is pretty huge. And so I'm just excited to impart some wisdom in that section. But I mean, you've got kids who are needing to make decisions that like us at that age, we didn't have those decisions to make, like we were given an apartment complex to live in. And now they're choosing, they're worried about rent, but they can put their whole rent check somewhere because they're getting a paycheck. They're getting, revenue sharing. So they're just different decisions that they have to make. But I'm super excited to kind of come in and help them through this.
Yeah. And this is off topic, but when you said you have kids and you pause, I was about to say, no, I don't, Marissa. What are you talking?
Nope. No, I don't.
No, I don't. So
Uh,
completely off
that's
topic.
funny. That's funny.
But your faith, well, how has your faith prepared you and helped you shape how you're about to approach this new season of life?
Yeah, so it's actually I'm just going through it in my personal Bible study time, but Psalm 78 is a really cool psalm because it basically kind of recounts the Israelites' journey from like beginning to end, right?
Mhm.
And it helps them to remember what God had done for them. And as a human condition, we tend to forget. As a human condition, like the Israelites left Egypt, walked through the Red Sea, it parts for them, and then closes on the Egyptians. It wasn't but 3 days later, they're like, well, how are we going to eat? God brought us out here and he's not going to feed us. He just opened a whole sea for you and you think he's not going to feed you? And so, like, but as that human condition, as things go on, as circumstances happen, as life happens, we tend to forget all of the times that God came through for us before. And that kind of goes in. I used to be like the biggest worry wart like ever. I remember there was a time where I broke down in tears in 8th grade because I didn't know what I was going to major in college. And my mom's like, okay, relax. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know that yet. Like, that is a long ways away. So just, so I've constantly gone through these situations where like I'd have freak out moments because I didn't know what the future held.
Mhm.
But again, as my faith journey's continued, as I've been able to go, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, essentially in a nutshell, says, don't lean on your own understanding, but trust in God and he's going to make all your ways straight. And that doesn't like, I don't have to know on a like verbatim what my future will look like. I have
Mhm.
so much peace in knowing that like whatever it's going to be good. Because even looking back on my career, I know that I have no control over things because if I was the person controlling my life, I would have written my career very differently. It would have
Mhm.
looked so different if I would have been the one who wrote out the script and if I would have been the one who planned everything, it would have been not how it was. But looking back on what I thought, back in 2013, if I were to write that and then look in 2025, like, okay, here's what it is. I know God had his hand in everything because even though that's not the way I would have written it, it was amazing and better and just so much more than I could have even imagined by myself. And so
Mhm.
knowing that, looking back, reflecting on everything that God's done in the past, I'm
Mhm.
sitting here and I'm like, I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to be pretty cool because the rest of my life, the previous like part of my life has shown that it's going to be good.
Yeah, just that faith part, that trusting God. I love
Yeah.
that. So for like athletes that are, struggling with letting go or even identity loss after
Mm.
their sport is done, what advice would you give to those trying to reconnect with who they are beyond the sport and just trusting God?
I think that's a great question, and that's a huge one that again, I feel super blessed the way I was raised. So like
Mhm.
this goes back identity building in sports is huge, right? Like that's what's normal. That's what tends to happen. And I've had my struggles with it for a long time, but I mean, from the moment that we started playing sports, my parents were raising us, and we were always raised with the tune of if you lost your arms or you lost your legs or you didn't something happened to where you couldn't be an athlete anymore, like what kind of a person would you be? And like they
Mm.
always raised us that way. So they never put like sports above where it should be in your life. And I think that helped. I'm not saying that cured everything because I still had moments where, like, if I didn't perform well, I felt worse about myself. But that's something that walking with God and walking with Jesus and being in a faith community really helped me see that, like, to be honest, nobody even remembers games, even sometimes days after they're played. But we
Yeah.
put so much pressure on ourselves. We put so much pressure on that moment. where it's like it's detrimental, it's paralyzing, but it's
Mhm.
real. You know, that's
Mhm.
a real feeling and we've all felt it before. And so in ways to like counter that identity and that struggle with like, okay, now that I'm not a basketball player anymore, who am I?
Mm.
And I think it's very important while you're still in it to start to discover yourself, right? To start to, be in that position where it's like, okay, I play basketball, but similar to the vehicle thing, I play basketball, but I don't want basketball to play me. And it's something that, I've I knew about my retirement for a whole season. So like in my head, I'm preparing. I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, this isn't the end of my life. This
Mhm.
isn't like this is actually a really cool part of my life. I was able to kind of be in that moment and know like, okay, this is the last time I'm going to Sosnoviec. This is the last time I'm going to Wrocław. Like I'm gonna make it special. I know, but like everybody else doesn't know, but that's okay. So I'm gonna go up to coach and I'm gonna do this and like I'm gonna do things knowing it's my last time so I don't have any regrets. But I get how difficult and how hard it can be for someone, for example, to go out with a season ending injury and then just never have that comeback. And so you're basically forced into retirement through injury, or, you're forced into retirement because your agent fell through, or no team wanted you, or, there is a list, a giant list of things that can cause a person to retire and it's not on their terms. And so I know that my situation is very, I would say it's very rare to be able to do what I just did and be okay with it. um, but as far as the identity thing, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna be something that you just, "Oh, okay, done," and I still think there's gonna be moments where I miss the game, but I was also very intentional throughout my whole career, like, "Okay, I'm not putting a timeline on this. If I want to quit or I want to stop playing after 3 years, then that's gonna be okay. If I wanna keep going, I never put a timeline on it because I didn't want to force myself or pressure myself to play longer or to stop before I was ready. And so
Mhm.
I think just going into it, I knew that, and knowing how much people struggle with retirement and how often that I heard it and how often I've seen 30 for 30s where like somebody retires and then they just go off the deep end or something. I think I was learning from their mistakes. I was learning from their lives. And it's like, okay, I don't really want that to be my future, and I know God didn't create me to only play basketball. Like, and again, that comes into wisdom. Like, I have a bigger purpose. Like, if I can use the basketball court as a platform to tell others about Him, then that's what I'm going to do. And then when that platform ends, there's going to be somewhere else where He leads me to where I can have a new platform and another space to do the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. Dropping gems. And I know we're getting short on time, like we have like 5 more minutes, but what do you hope people take away from the life you lived or the life you've led on and off the court?
Yeah, I really like, my prayer is really that they know God
Mm.
better because they knew me.
Mm.
Um, and I think that that is kind of evident in the things that people were saying and the things that people were remembering about me, if you will, as I was leaving. And I think just that legacy of, I read it one time and it kind of stuck with me about like, people aren't necessarily going to remember what you talked about or, the things that you accomplished, but when they leave your presence, they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think that like that motto, and it kind of went into the motto of, my life has kind of been centered since like, can maybe 2019 when I actually started it, is
Mhm.
the motto of love God and love people. And like when you do those two things, and when all of your words, actions, and thoughts fall into those two categories, does this show that I love God? And does this show that I love people? If the answer has to be yes to both of them, and then your things are just going to turn out well. Like if that's your motive, if that's what you're living by, things are going to happen, and it's going to be, everything is going to be good. So I think that was like me putting relationships and people first, because one of my biggest fears a while ago, we were talking about this and everything, and I was like, I'm scared to die alone. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that being alone meant like being single.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that if I didn't have a husband, if I didn't have a boyfriend, whatever, that I was lesser than or I was going to die alone. But then I realized, like, okay, I don't necessarily, not that I don't want a man, but like having a husband does not mean that you will never be lonely, right? Like, there's a condition deeper that I had to figure out that, like, okay, being alone, being single is different than being lonely, right? There's a difference in those two words. And I started to realize, like, okay, if I were in a hospital, who would be by my side? And I started to list all these people that would be there. I wouldn't be alone. Would I have a husband there? Well, at this current moment, no, because I'm not married. But like, if I started to think about, like, okay, being alone isn't fixed by having a man in my life. It's by building relationships with my sisters, with, my family, with brothers in Christ, like all those things. There's so much more than just having a significant other, right? And so I think me putting that emphasis on relationships, I think that's something that has left a legacy that I'm really proud of knowing that, you know, the invitation, like, hey, if you're ever in XYZ city, please call me and like stay at my house. Like, I know that's a real invitation. And so just having those people, having those relationships, and knowing that, like, my emphasis on life is how people feel when they leave me, I think is something that I really value.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for mentioning that because as women, as females, sometimes it can feel like society places that pressure on you to find a significant other. Girl. But just to
Listen,
remember, like,
I'm 30, almost 35, okay? I'm still
yeah,
waiting for like a knight in shining armor to like come down on a white horse and just like sweep me off my feet. But that's been something, like, I joke about it, but it has been something, you know, talking about faith, like talking about my career, pretty
mhm,
much I've gotten everything in my life that I've ever worked hard for, right?
yeah,
And this is something that I think God used also, is like to teach me about control, to teach me about faith, to teach me about trust, is like, I've tried to be the best girlfriend for people. I've tried to, find that man and all this stuff. And like, it just hasn't happened yet. But it's not because I haven't been doing the right things. I've been obedient to God. I've been doing it His way. I tried my way
mhm,
and that didn't work. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it your way, thinking like, okay, give it like 2 months and I'm going to find the guy. No, like, it's been a long time. And I think that more so than basketball, it's been like this journey with singleness and this journey with, like, okay, am I going to sit here in a pity party and be like, oh, well, I don't have a boyfriend, so I can't travel, I can't do this, I can't do that because I'm single. And it's like, absolutely not. Like, I'm going to grow in my faith. I'm going to become the woman that, like, my husband someday is going to want to date. I'm not going to sit here and wait around for something, like, I'm not going to put my life on hold because maybe I don't have what I want, but I'm
right,
open, like, I'm open to do this, that, and the third. But I think that's something that's really helped my faith too. And knowing that, like, I can't make someone fall in love with me, like, I can't, that's not in my control. But what can I control? I can control my character. I can control my obedience. I can control, these certain things. And then I have to trust God with the rest.
yeah, so true. All right, so 1 minute. I like to ask this at the end.
Okay.
If aliens landed on a planet, who and they said, "Take me to your leader," who would be your leader, and who would you take them to? It could be like an animal, person. It doesn't matter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Take me to
crazy
your
one.
leader. Okay, this is like coming off the first thing in my head. I would take them somewhere like where nature has done like an amazing thing, right? So whether it be like the Grand Canyon or
Mhm.
Denali National Park, like, I would take them somewhere where, like, nature has done something beautiful, And I would
Nice.
basically explain, like, okay, you can't see my leader, but this is what he does. So that would be my answer.
Mic drop. Mic drop. That was freaking beautiful. I have nothing to add to that. And I just want to say thank you again for taking time out of your schedule. You are a beautiful soul. I'm so lucky that you were my host at NC State and that we stay connected. No, I know we stay connected, and like you are my sis, and hopefully I can make it out to Nebraska and see a game. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you again, Marissa. Marissa, girl, thank you for sharing so openly and beautifully. Your story reminds us that purpose isn't something we stumble into, it's something we choose to live with intention and faith. To all of you listening, if this episode stirs something in you, share it with a teammate, a friend, or someone who needs encouragement today, or share it for yourself. Save it, download it. And don't forget to subscribe to Still an Athlete and follow us at Instagram at still.athlete and follow Marissa at Marissa.Kastanek. And keep an eye on her and her journey at the University of Nebraska, because I know she's about to make just as much impact off the court as she did on it. And as always, you're not alone and you're still an athlete.